Welcome to SIIMcast, a podcast brought to you by the Society for Imaging Informatics in Medicine.
Greetings, SIIMcast listeners. Today we're catching up with the winners of the SIIM 2024 Hackathon winners. It is Team Scan and Tell, and today representing this team, we have Delaney, Nabil, Nico, Paige, and Alex. I'm going to introduce them sequentially before we dive right into the episode. So Delaney is a junior at Marquette University, double majoring in cognitive science and biomedical engineering with a focus on computing and innovative leadership. She is eager to integrate her academic background and research experience to harness technology in ways that improve people's lives. Specifically, she hopes to focus on imaging technologies to explore connections between neuroscience and cognitive science, pushing the boundaries of what's possible in healthcare and human understanding. Nabil is a junior at Marquette University studying biomedical engineering with a focus on computing and innovation leadership. He is very passionate about robotics, bionics, and medical imaging, and looking forward to helping advance these fields in graduate school or industry. Nico is a senior at Marquette University studying biomedical engineering with a concentration in computing with a minor in philosophy, driven simply by the desire to make the world a better place. He has participated in 2 SIIM hackathons already and moderated 1 webinar recently, so we can say he's firmly plugged into the SIIM community now. Paige is a junior at Marquette University studying biomedical engineering with a focus on biocomputing, and minors in neuroscience and computer engineering. She is driven by a passion for the intersection of engineering and business, aiming to use innovative technology to improve patient care. She is eager to learn, collaborate, contribute to projects that advance the field of biomedical engineering. And then last but not least, Alex is a software developer at the American College of Radiology. He graduated from Marquette with the Master of Science in Biomedical Engineering, has been part of the SIIM Hackathon and RFDS committee, and he is also passionate about medical IT standards. Alex received the 2023 Early Career Achievement from SIIM, as well as a number of awards for participating in the SIIM Hackathon over the years. He continues to support students entering this field, having assisted college and high school students in multiple hackathon projects, and he's also going to be teaching informatics courses starting in 2025. We hope you enjoyed the chat as much as we enjoyed it too. Welcome, SIIMcast listener. I am sitting here with our team from Marquette University, Team Scan and Tell. And I want to start by asking you all the question of how you found out about SIIM and specifically the hackathon.
First, hi everyone, my name's Nabil. I found out about SIIM through upperclassmen at Marquette, people who went to the hackathon and the conference before. And it's all organized by Terry Sippel-Schmidt. She's a Marquette alum who's very involved with SIIM, the Society of Informatics. And she brings a group of students every year to compete in the hackathon. I had friends who had a really great time at the hackathon the year before and suggested I go, and explained how you got to learn a lot about imaging informatics and meet a lot of great people. And for that reason, me and a few of my other friends ended up attending.
I also found out the same way through Terry. She had been a guest speaker in one of my classes during my sophomore year. And afterwards in that class, because she was talking about imaging informatics, and I was still sort of looking for my niche in biomed, I had approached her after class and we had gotten talk. She had told me a little bit about the hackathon. And then afterwards, we met one more time where she was like, ever since COVID, the whole process had slowed down. She wasn't able to bring as many students to the hackathon as she was able to before COVID. And so she brought the idea of sort of reviving the program and sort of tasked me and a couple other friends to sort of talk about the hackathon and try to get some students on board. So SIIM 23, we were able to get a pretty good amount of students. And then, of course, this past summer as well, we were able to get even more. And yeah, we really just have to thank Terry for this amazing opportunity.
I found out through students like Nico, on Paige, by the way, just upperclassmen who had done it before and hearing their experience doing it. I didn't really know much about it as I applied. I actually applied, I think, on the last day, but just finding out about the opportunity to do a hackathon, which I'd always wanted to do, was really interesting to me. So It was super last minute for me, but that's how I found out about it.
Yeah, I also found out through upperclassmen. Nico was actually the one to invite me to do it. So for Sim 23, it was a lot more informal, where she was just like, "Are you interested in doing this?" And now we've started having applications that are also promoted through different clubs like BMES.
Okay, so I'm seeing a common thread here with Terry telling you generally about it. Any chance you remember what the messaging was like? Like, you got to go to this thing, or hey, you may find this interesting. How hard of a push was it?
From what I remember, whenever I had first gone up to Terry after she had done that guest lecture, I had basically told her, I'm this whole field of imaging informatics seems pretty interesting. Could you just tell me more about it? She was like, I could teach you as much as I could, but there's also an opportunity this summer where you could attend SIIM. And she explained what SIIM was and told me that the easiest way to learn about informatics was to attend the hackathon. And at the time, I mainly did it because I was very interested in the field and just the idea of being able to go down and learn so much about the field. It's a great opportunity. And that's exactly what happened. The amount that I feel like each one of us have learned just by attending was one of the big motivators as to why we went in the first place.
Yeah, Terry pitched it as a big learning opportunity. So even though we were there to compete in the hackathon, she didn't want that to be our sole focus. She made sure that we had to meet with a lot of people who come from different backgrounds and different professions and encouraged us to attend a lot of talks and meet with a lot of the booths. So Terry's goal of it is just to expose us to the field, and her motherly nature, if you will, brought us a great deal of learning opportunities.
Yeah, when she talks about it, she really pushes the networking aspect of it. And I just remember during the hackathon, she would just grab people and come and have them talk to us just to give us advice, have us pitch our project to them, see what input they have. So it's just a great networking experience. And you also learn a ton just in 3 days from all of the incredible people at SIM.
Yeah, I never met Terry until I actually got to the SIIM Hackathon event, but immediately she just made me feel a lot more comfortable because I really did not know anything about medical imaging or informatics or any of that stuff. But again, her emphasis on just learning and gaining experience really helped me feel more prepared. And then again, just all the help she provided made it took a lot of the pressure off. Yeah, she was a great mentor for the hackathon.
That's awesome. I want to turn it to Alex for a moment. So, Alex, you've been around the sim circles for a while, and I'm curious how you got voluntold to be part of this team.
I was thinking about, a lot of different things as people were talking about their various experiences and how they got into sim. And one of the things that kind of stuck out was that there has been really good and really consistent messaging over the years to, both students and those who are younger in the field, that sim is really just this amazing opportunity for networking, for learning. And that's what was told to me as well when I had first started, learning more about informatics and learning about this annual meeting and hackathon. And that is kind of what Terry had. It wasn't as much of a voluntold thing as much as a, hey, this is a really great opportunity. I think you should do this. And so that's what I had as my experience with that. And then afterward, it was, oh, and there are also additional opportunities to stay connected within this community. And so that's how I ended up being on the hackathon committee for a number of years and coming back to it now recently, as well as, just staying connected with all the, sim folks.
That's wonderful. Can I ask one of you to explain what your project was to our listeners?
Yeah, so in very simple terms, what our project does is that we want to track potential medication side effects that you would find in medical imaging and be able to alert whoever gave that patient that medication of there being maybe a possible connection between the medication and the side effect they found. But then we also want to take all that data, the correlation between medications that patients take and conditions that you find in medical imaging, and report that to the FDA so that they can further build their cases whenever they're trying to determine whether medications could cause certain side effects.
Can you expand a little bit more about how you actually go about detecting the presence of these adverse effects?
We rely a lot on just present EHR data. And the way that we developed our project is that we would have multiple scripts where the main script that would do the comparing and contrasting would pull from the SIIM database our made up EHR data. And we would basically cross-reference saying, hey, this is the medication that they're taking. And according to the available data, what are some potential side effects? And do those same side effects, are those found in the medical images that we're currently looking at? And if there's like a positive correlation between the two, then it would automatically generate a response that would be sent to the primary care physician or to the person that just administered the medicine, telling them, hey, your patient is experiencing a condition that could potentially be due to a medication that they're taking. What would you like to do about that? And so that's basically the path that we took. Yeah.
Cool. So for anyone here who's not familiar, could you explain a little bit more about why is it important that you notify them fast? So that's on the short term. On the long term, why is it important that you report this to the FDA?
So short term, it's really important because a lot of these doctors live in oversaturated areas where they're caring for maybe hundreds of patients at a time. And so if they were to go tell one of their patients that's feeling ill, hey, go get this scan, it could genuinely be weeks before they get the results. And up until that point, they would realize that, hey, maybe the condition that came back from the imaging report could be due to a medication that they're taking. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to narrow that window so that the physician knows about the results a lot sooner than just weeks later, whenever they may be getting that report, or just the last time that they see the patient, because a lot of times they won't review these results until the patient comes in for a follow-up appointment, which could then be weeks after they went in to go get that actual imaging done.
In addition to monitoring clinicians in the short term, part of our project is compiling data and sending it to the FDA. The purpose of that is because it offers real-time tracking of drug side effects. So now as patients are presenting with side effects that are recorded by medical imaging, that data is sent to the FDA right away. So they have you could think of it as an active ticker of how these drugs are reacting perhaps adversely in patients. So instead of waiting to do longer retrospective studies to understand the potential negative effects of drugs, the FDA is able to monitor it continuously.
Very interesting. And I can't help but wonder, where did you get this idea from?
So this idea was actually one of many that Terry had presented to us before the hackathon. When we were discussing about like how we were going to shuffle teams around, Terry presented us with a list of 4 or 5 different ideas that she had just come up with, or ideas that she had heard from people in the industry of like things people wish they were better or things that people wish that they had. And this was one of the projects that she had come up with, and actually on there, and I remember this specifically because I thought it was a little bit funny. Under each project idea that she put a marker of how important each one was in the industry. And under this specific one, I remember the text specifically being, should have been done a very, very, very long time ago. So just an idea that Terry knew from the start, it would be a project that should have been, first of all, fulfilled a long time ago, but also something that urgently a lot of people in the industry felt like would have been really important to have.
Awesome. I want to hear from the 4 of you about this next question. So, in the process of coming to the hackathon, you had to learn a lot of new stuff. And some of that new stuff would have been things like Fire and or DICOM that are very industry specific. Tell me about your first impressions.
I guess I can start. I had never even heard of any of these things before. And like I said earlier, Terry, even though she knew that I had no experience with any of this, she made me feel really comfortable and like immediately sat down with us and helped us to start getting a better understanding of not only like what are these things, but like how are we going to use them in our project. So it made it a lot easier. She was a very great teacher also. And after just spending a lot more time, you ended up getting like a good enough hang of it to understand what we need to do for the project. I'll be honest, I still don't know a whole ton about it, but I think Terry helped me learn a lot more than I probably would have, especially since like I know some of us, we were running on like 3 hours of sleep after getting like a late flight. So it was really overwhelming, but in general, it was a good experience and it helped me develop my technical skills, I guess, especially with coding and all of that.
Something great that Terry emphasized in the learning process was transferable skills. So when it comes to things like communicating by fire, Terry stressed how important API queries were, and Alex did a great job explaining this as well. The reason being API queries are universal in a lot of programming applications, well beyond radiology or imaging informatics. So I mean, personally, I've used API queries since the hackathon. I've used the API queries in just fun projects. So that was, in my opinion, the most valuable experience about learning about Fire and DICOM was to be able to take the core concepts and apply them elsewhere.
For me, I remember before the hackathon, Terry gave us some videos to watch of previous lectures she had had. And I remember like watching it, taking notes and thinking like, okay, this kind of makes sense. And then when we were given the project and we actually had to use that stuff that she had us watch the videos on, I had no idea what I was doing. So it was kind of an interesting experience to see like how different actually applying these concepts was to just learning like the very, very basics of it and how in depth it can really go.
I'd say the same, definitely. The first time that I went to the hackathon in Sim 23, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, especially with DICOM. And even today, I don't fully understand what DICOM is. And like I left the hackathon really thinking that I hadn't learned much, but whenever we started doing preparations for Sim 24 and all of the same topics came up again, I realized that I had retained a lot more than I thought. And especially during the hackathon, I was able to get just like a way better understanding than the first time around. And so I mean, even today, I can say it's a little bit shaky again with DICOM as to what it is, but with like Fire, the stuff that like I worked on specifically in our project, I have just a lot better of an understanding than I did the first time around.
I have some really good news for you all. When you were at SIM, did you hear about the imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm an example of the imposter syndrome. I've been in the industry for 15 years, and we all learn new things every day. Alex, you've been in the industry for a little while now. I'm sure you're learning new things every day. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yes. Welcome to the club. Now, I've got to ask, because you sparked my curiosity, those videos you watched, were they like Terry's recorded lecture or like some other stuff that's been put out by the community?
They were mostly Terry's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because she had previously taught a class on this. I know at Marquette, Johns Hopkins.
Not it, yeah.
Yeah, so she has a whole YouTube channel of like various lectures, and she's like, just go to this YouTube channel, watch what you can, and learn a lot of stuff.
And some of these videos were actually also on the Sim YouTube channel. Some of them were on DICOM and Fire that we also were able to watch as well.
Nice. Good to know. Can I ask you to share the links afterwards? Because I may need to watch a few of these. I'm just saying.
Yeah, for sure.
There's always something we can all learn here. You kind of touched on this for a few, but I maybe want to hear a little bit more. So I'm assuming, and you kind of said that you've learned some interesting skills, assuming it was valuable. Has it improved your understanding of the radiology workflow or the industry in general? Has it altered it? Maybe it's worse now, right? What is it like?
I would say it, on one hand, exposed challenges with the radiology workflow. For example, the case study, if you will, that our project was trying to tackle. Consider a patient who's taken a drug for reducing the effects of Alzheimer's who all of a sudden experiences microhemorrhages on an MRI image. If her radiologist doesn't see this for a few days, she might continue to hemorrhage, and this would be a bad thing when, in fact, we'd want to take her off the drug sooner. What I think the hackathon did really well was, or perhaps our experience with the hackathon, was connecting scenarios like these to the underlying programming principles and structure of why these issues occur and how we can fix them. So I would say the hackathon helped bring my real world experiences with some of the mechanics under the hood and shine light on potential solutions.
I think for me, the biggest thing that I learned about was the importance of sharing like data or like the radiology reports quickly, like improving that timeline, especially after there's this one course I have to take at Marquette. It's like clinical medical regulatory issues, something along that line. And Terry actually came in to do a guest lecture for us after the hackathon, where she sort of talked all about it again, and it really emphasized the importance of how many issues there still are in this world and how they can be improved, even just with like our little projects from the hackathon, and seeing how important it actually is. Even like for that class, we also have to go and shadow in the OR for different operations. And I know for me, seeing mine were like radiology related, and seeing the actual process of that being done and then learning about this does really take a long time is very interesting for me.
Okay, wonderful. So, with all of you being students, with exception of Alex, I assume you are able to make use of the free membership that SIIM offers to students. And I'm curious if you found your membership to be useful after the hackathon. Have you had an opportunity to attend some webinars, engage in discussions? Maybe you're planning on attending SIIM next year again?
I haven't made as much use of a membership as I wish I did. I've been renewing it every time that it expires using the student discount, which is great. I do currently plan on attending SIIM next year if all goes well and I have the opportunity. But I do always get like the emails and the newsletters advertising the different webinars and opportunities that SIIM offers. And I remember a lot that during preparation for the hackathon, especially this past summer, I would just sort of browse through the SIIM website because there's a lot of good stuff, especially as I was renewing my membership. But it's definitely something that I should look into more, taking advantage of the benefits from the membership.
I also hope to go to SIIM again next year. I will also say my membership played useful a few months ago as I submitted an abstract to the conference for machine intelligence and medical imaging. So the membership was helpful with that.
I agree with both of them. I haven't been able to make use of my membership much yet, but I do hope to do that more in the future, especially if I do attend another hackathon, which I would like to do. Attending the one this past summer really got me more interested in competing in hackathons in general. And I know obviously I had a great experience with the SIIM one, so definitely would like to do that again.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as everyone else. I definitely haven't used the membership as much as I probably should have, since it has so many great things. Like I do look at the email sometimes and I get so surprised at like how much there is out there. And like I definitely want to attend the hackathon next year also. It's just such a cool experience, and hearing everyone's stories there and how they ended up in this field is always super inspiring.
That's really cool to hear. And I'm very excited to see you all, hopefully at SIIM next year, especially the hackathon. I will point out that in between now and then, if it makes any difference, one of the things you could use for your membership would be the webinars. SIIM puts on a lot of informative webinars. Now, the topics sometimes may be very relevant to something you're interested in, sometimes maybe not. So obviously pick and choose. But I would say there's probably a webinar probably every other week or every 3 weeks or so. So just keep an eye for those. There's actually one that's caught my attention. I believe it's next week. Women in Imaging Informatics, which is a topic that I find is very interesting because that's one of the things that we strive for as an industry is that equal representation. And that's one of the cool things about your team. You guys are equally represented, right? So that actually goes a long way. All right. I'm curious if any of you have been bitten by the bug of imaging informatics and you see this being your career. And I also do see the note that you gave me about this being a capstone project. So I want to definitely hear more about that.
Yeah, so as far as my intention to go into medical imaging informatics after I graduate, it's definitely something I'm considering. I mean, after all, that's why I had approached Terry in the first place. And, I sort of got roped into all of this. It's definitely not something I just want to throw away after I graduate. I just want to consider whether it's something I want to go into. But as far as the capstone project, yes, given that this is my senior year and Marquette does have a big senior design process for your whole senior year, I was talking with Alex shortly after the hackathon, and we were talking about the possibility of adopting the continuation of this project as my senior design capstone project. Sadly, I do wish I could have the rest of my team, but they are all juniors, so they're not in the senior design class. However, they're absolutely still in the loop of all of this. And it's been great so far. The way that senior design is sort of organized here at Marquette is that the first semester is sort of like your preparation phase, which is something that's definitely very helpful with a project like this, especially one that was developed in a hackathon, where in a hackathon you don't have time to really figure out, target specs, your value proposition or your customer needs. You sort of have the idea and you hash at it right there. If changes come up, you add them in, but you don't really put in any of that preparation beforehand. And so it's nice to be able to sort of deconstruct our project that we worked on during the hackathon and sort of take a couple steps back and really figure out the details of what we want this to look like over the long term. And then next semester is when all the projects really start to be further developed. So although we haven't really developed much since like code wise, since the hackathon, that's when we really believe that it'll start to ramp up once we, of course, have a better understanding of exactly what it is that we want our project to look like. And yeah, I'm really excited. I was able to get 3 of my friends who are also seniors to get on the project. All 3 of them did also attend SIIM this past summer. They were just on other teams. So it's nice to be able to pull in from people who sort of already know the context of what image informatics is. They were at the presentation at the end of SIIM, so they know what the project is to begin with. And it's been an amazing opportunity, and we're excited to see where it goes.
Personally, I think I've been bit by the medical imaging bug, not as much the informatics bug. I like the math and the physics more, so I'm sure I'll certainly stay connected to imaging informatics and SIM, but probably not as much as Nico.
I should
I
point
agree with
out
that.
there's no right or wrong answer. I was just curious.
I agree with that too. I have a lot of interest, so I don't really know what my future holds yet, but I'll have to say that after the hackathon, I definitely have a lot more interest than I thought I would in medical imaging and informatics, but who knows? Maybe, maybe not.
I would say I'm about where Paige is. I really have no idea what I want to do, but learning about informatics and medical imaging has definitely been a great experience. And like I said before, I just love hearing everyone's stories, how they kind of went all over the place and they ended up in something they loved. So it gives me a little hope for my confusion.
Absolutely. And like I said, it's a question out of curiosity, so there's no right or wrong answer. I was actually speaking to a previous Marquette team from another year, and I think it was Davina who told me that her long-term career goal is to go into law. And I joked with her that your lawyer friends are not going to be nearly as much fun as your imaging informatics friends. Just have to get that out of the way.
Mohammed, can we flip the script for a second? Can we ask you a question? How
Yeah,
did you get involved in informatics?
that's a pretty funny story, Nabil. It's actually not
It's
nearly as
awesome.
exciting or inspiring as anyone else you're going to meet. So heads up, you're going to be disappointed. I'm a computer science graduate by training, and I worked in multiple industries, doing computer science development type of stuff. And at the time, I was just looking for a new job. And I started by thinking about the things I like and the things I don't like. And one of the things I didn't like was driving far. So I decided that I would set my search parameter to be within 15 minutes drive of where I live. And then I started doing my intel by looking up the different companies that were within 15 minutes drive from my house. And there was this one company that was exactly 10 minutes away from my house. They work in the imaging informatics space. I can't say the name because we got to stay vendor neutral here, but you can find it on my LinkedIn profile. I started doing my intel, and I realized people tend to go and work for that company for a relatively long time. And I had no idea about what it is they did because, again, I'm trained to be domain agnostic. But they figured if people are staying there for a decade or two, there's got to be something interesting there. So I decided to focus on that particular company. I applied, I got in. And I remember getting in the first day and I'm like, what's this? DICOM. God, that was awful and weird. But I think a year in, I fell in love. It's an acquired taste. And I actually remember at the time remarking to my wife, like, I think I love this. I think I'm going to stay in this domain. And not only did I stay, but it's been now 15 years for me in this domain. And honestly, it's been a lot of fun. It's a number of things. It's the acquired taste of what the industry does. Also, for somebody like me who's been trained to be domain agnostic, as you age, you also realize that the code you write is more than just a means to an end as far as making an income, but it's also something you could leave a lasting impression in the world and lasting effect, right? So when you do this in a field like medical imaging, whether it's informatics or something else, it is helping make the world a better place, even though it's a tiny little contribution, right? I'm not delusional. I'm not a doctor. I'm not healing people. But my tiny little contribution could help make the world a slightly better place. And for me, that's plenty good, right? And that's the case for you. You've got an amazing future ahead of all of you. As I said, there's no right or wrong answer. Obviously, we'd love for you to stick around with imaging informatics. It's a welcoming community. By the way, the community is one of the reasons I stayed. Of the different industries I worked in, I'm not going to lie, I don't think there's a community second to this one here. The type of people you meet, the intelligence, the humility, just really good people. Did that answer your question?
I don't know why you undersold it. That was a great story.
Well, some people will have inspiring stories. Next time you see Terry, you should ask her about her story of how she got into imaging informatics. Now, that's a properly inspiring story.
That's a good story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Maybe we turn this to Alex, because he's been pretty quiet. He's underutilized on this episode. How did you get into imaging informatics?
Well, that's actually mostly to do with SIIM. And again, with some of Terry's help. Terry encouraged me to go to the hackathon. And the following year, Terry had encouraged me to speak with someone at the SIIM conference, Chris Tremmel. Me, just kind of excited to talk about what was then my master's thesis, went into that conversation, just, really excited to have that opportunity to talk about it, and not really knowing that it was also an interview. And yeah, basically, coming out of that with an offer to work where I am now. And yeah, so I attribute it both, well, actually all to the opportunities that SIIM networking provides, Terry encouraging people to do that networking and really talk with each other across fields, across disciplines. And then also what I had been working on at the time, which was very both imaging focused, but also with an AI component and a lot of research that was going on there. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I'll also add one more thing for Nabil and the rest of the group in the Marquette room. One of the fun things you get to see in this industry as you really properly get bitten by the bug is the appreciation for interoperability. So things like FHIR. And for me, seeing FHIR come to, our domain has been a lot of fun. But sometimes you get that kick that just makes you feel like you're over the moon from the silliest things ever. I remember in the height of COVID with all the lockdowns and travel restrictions, getting one of those highs. I don't know if any of you here are familiar with the smart COVID vaccine certificates. Have you seen those before? I will dig up a link and show it to you. And for any of our listeners, if you just Google the smart COVID vaccination certificates, you should be able to find this. Well, the reason why that got me so interested is because those smart COVID vaccines contain a QR code. QR codes have always been fascinating for me. This specific case got even more fascinating because that QR code contains data. I put the link in the chat if you want to have a look to see what they look like. But basically what happens with these smart vaccination cards is they've actually embedded FHIR data into the QR code. And the brilliance of it is not just FHIR, because I'm a FHIR geek, but also when I actually traveled with this vaccination certificate and they scanned it in a different country and it worked. that was a moment of interoperability. It's actually possible. There are a lot of things happening in the industry that kind of keep me dreaming every day. And, for you youngsters, so to speak, could be a fun project to see to fruition in the future. So, for example, the fire community nowadays is working on an initiative called the International Patient Summary, which allows patients to be able to take essentially a dump of their medical record and be able to travel with it overseas, either because you have a health condition that you're actively managing, or because you're moving overseas for a few years and you want to be able to take your medical record with you. So again, that kind of interoperability gets me excited. Maybe it's something you find fun, maybe not, but I figured I'd mention it just in case. Who knows? Maybe it'll inspire a new project. Awesome. So this has been a really cool conversation. I want to get this from each one of you. So based on the experiences you've had, what advice would you give someone who's early in their career, or maybe someone who's curious about learning something like DICOM, FIRE, participating in a hackathon? What would you say to them?
I'd say that you just need to jump into it blindly. At least I remember that whenever I was trying to recruit people for Terry's hackathon team for SIIM 23, the biggest pushback that I got when asking people if they want to join was, I don't know anything about informatics. Fair. It's a far distance to travel because we were in Austin that year. That's also fair. And 3, it's a big opportunity in that it's very sudden, and you do genuinely need to take a leap of faith in order to go into it. And so that's what I would say is my biggest advice, is that even if you have all these doubts about an opportunity like this, when you get opportunities like these, even if it's not SIIM, even if you're not traveling halfway across the country, just take them. Because there were a lot of people who attended SIIM through Terry's team that even after the hackathon, they were like, yeah, I don't think I'd ever go into imaging informatics, but I'm still really happy that I went. Not because they think that they'll be able to use everything they learn in their jobs in the future, but it's just the fact that they know about it. And just whether it's the connections or just the knowledge, a lot of people have value in that. And so I think that a lot of students and a lot of people can really make the best of these opportunities just by taking that leap of faith. Even if you really don't know what you're doing, you'll walk out and you'll take something with you that you at least value in one way or another.
My advice would definitely be, whether it's SIIM or any other hackathon, to go out and try to do a hackathon in whatever career field you want to be in. Because not only does it really help give you a better understanding of technical aspects of a career, or even just helping develop your coding skills or learn more about different applications. It's really beneficial for that, but also you get a broader sense of the business aspects behind it as well, and how it actually has impacts on the world. And then also, if you choose to, you can practice your presenting skills, which I think a lot of people don't get a really good experience doing that when it's applying to the real world. So no matter what you're interested in, I think I would definitely say, if you have even the slightest interest at all, to go out and do a hackathon, because I know I really learned a lot from it.
Yeah, I agree with what both of them said, especially Nico, because I remember when he asked me, I had no idea what it was or anyone going besides for him. And I'm so happy I said yes to it, because it was terrifying and I don't think I want to do informatics, but I have learned so much and I came back the next year. And my advice would just to be curious and ask a lot of questions. Because especially in the SIIM community, everyone is so willing to talk to you and give you so much advice. And all you have to do is ask, and they will share more than you asked for. And it's just a great learning experience.
In most cases, you probably have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So I say just go for it. If you're a little uncomfortable, good. That means you're going to learn. And on top of that, I'd say, this really applies to a lot of things beyond SIIM and hackathons, but for the sake of conversation, we'll specify there. If you go to a hackathon, don't just go and twiddle your thumbs and say, oh yeah, I went to a hackathon. I would go and actually try and get obsessed or engage with it and try and put in as much as you can to get out as much as you can. So you only learn if you want to learn. And all the outputs are based on your inputs. So in short, I'd say go for it. You have nothing to lose, and make sure you put in a valid effort.
That's really good advice. I love how you all worded your advice. I think it was very concise and very effective. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I am very grateful for you all lending the time and coordinating this so we could have this chat. I think our listeners are definitely going to find this episode to be insightful. And I personally definitely look forward to hopefully seeing all of you at a future SIIM, ideally even a SIIM hackathon. And once again, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for having
Yeah,
us.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
SIIMcast has been brought to you by the Society of Imaging Informatics in Medicine. Please visit our website at siim.org for more information and educational content, including webinars and an archive of prior episodes. Please follow us on Twitter at sim_tweets. Thank you to our listeners for your continued support.